and today we're talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 because this thing just continues to be an ever-growing dumpster fire.
It's
But today,
a dumpster
Nintendo
fire.
has just released a master list of the hundreds and hundreds of games that work on the Nintendo Switch 1 that do not work on the Nintendo Switch 2.
Oh yeah, just like how Concord don't work on my PS5 because Sony decided to shut the service to it. How about all the canceled games that don't work on my PS5 because Sony wasn't confident in releasing them? As a matter of fact, where's your marathon video talking about how the game either got delayed or canceled? Oh, that's right, because I'm a PlayStation fanboy, and we like to skip on those topics. So that's why I like to provide that for the gaming community and bring attention to that. Because I have no problem with people being critical towards the Nintendo Switch 2, but I find it so funny that you're doing that, but yet when it comes to PlayStation, you like to avoid these subjects.
And some of these are actually mind-blowing. YouTube does not work on the Nintendo Switch 2. Fortnite, Final Fantasy, there are so many games that just do not work on the Switch 2, and it's starting to seem like...
I mean, honestly, that's not the biggest thing, because, I mean, those things will obviously be updated later on, but I understand people's frustrations. If that is the case, people's like, wow, why aren't some of the apps working right out of the gate? Perfectly understandable. I don't think people are really going to try to counter that argument, but man, when it comes to the games, they're clearly bringing out more games than the PlayStation. You shouldn't be buying a Switch 2 to watch YouTube. You should be buying a Nintendo Switch 2 to play the latest and greatest games that Nintendo is offering. Can we all agree to that? And that's something that Nintendo's not dropping a beat on, dude. And this is the problem. It's that you guys want to run on this whole Nintendo hate, Switch 2 hate bandwagon, but 9 out of 10, no, you know what? 99% of you people are going to go out there and buy one. I'm against them price increases. I'm against them game keys. I'm against everything. And then you're gonna be the first dude lining up for it, like a bunch of fools.
Like this system is in fact rushed, that exists for profit over passion. I mean,
oh wow, a company, a multi-billion-dollar company released a product just for money and not passion? Bro, which generation are you in? They ain't never made a console in history for passion. Now, the developers is what took the console and said, hey, we can push the technological leap of what we could do with these platforms. So that's kind of what the passion is. But unfortunately, with how gaming is evolving, companies are not like this. They're like, oh, we can't afford to take chances. I mean, that sounds like a great idea, but we're going to have to still keep making Call of Duty. We love the new twists, but it just doesn't make financial sense to us. And this is the problem with gaming, is the fact that this is why when people say indie games have more creativity, is because they're able to experiment more than what AAA games can do now. Because now if you experiment with a AAA game and it fails, that could be the end of a company. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So as you guys can see, indie games, or the cost of low budget games, is the reason as to why some of these games are still ambitious, still very passionate, and still very much different. Because if you put a AAA price tag, you got to make sure that it's a guaranteed success by the time the game releases. Or we're going to have a Concord, or maybe another upcoming one, a marathon, type of decision.
The fact that this thing does not have an OLED screen, it's the most expensive Nintendo console of all time. The fact that it still has Joy-Con drift, the fact that it has a shorter battery life.
Of course it has a shorter battery. Like, bro, you can tell this dude, look, he put his hand by his face. You don't know what you're talking about, bro. Of course. If you run into this is no different than the Steam Deck. If you run a more demanding game on it, it's going to drain more battery. It's a pretty easy concept to understand. If you want to run some old Final Fantasy NES looking games, you could probably run that for 8 to 9 hours if that's what you choose to want to play. But let's not act like this is not something we've already known already. You guys know that if you run a demanding game on a portable console, it's going to drain more battery. Why do you think the Game Gear, Games with another W, why do you think the Game Gear needed 6 batteries and it drained it far quicker than the Game Boy? Ding, 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 ding. Good answer, Carl, because it was more powerful. Wow. That was so easy to understand, right? Like, it's crazy that I got to give you guys the gaming education because you guys don't know nothing.
Let's take a look at the master list.
Like, what are we doing, man?
I have to admit that even though we are about 9 days from the launch, I don't think I've ever seen a...
Now, the real question, what is this survival horror game that he's playing in? Can somebody tell me what game is this? If that's an indie game, because I ain't never seen this before. So please tell me what game this is. That's actually the only thing that I'm actually happy that I clicked on this video to see some survival horror. Like, what is this game? Because that actually looks like something I would play. Please make sure you guys, if you know what that game is, tell me within the comment sections, because I might more likely pick it up.
Nintendo
Looks kind of cool.
So obvious.
Oh
even
yeah,
before the bomb
that's my
hit.
type of
Let's
game.
talk. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could please give this video a like and some even stuff like this. Like, come on, could you not actually spend that little bit of money? This is now confirmed. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 on Xbox, the game is on the disc. On PlayStation, the game is on the disc.
What are you talking about? Xbox, you still, before you can use any game on your console, you have to sync it online. Before you can use any game on your PS5 disc drive, you have to synchronize the disc drive online. Now, mind you, I'm not damage controlling or defending the concept of the game keycard. All I'm saying is that your consoles ain't no different than what Nintendo's doing with DRM. Okay? That's the difference. Nintendo didn't DRM their console, they just DRM their software, while Microsoft and Sony DRM the hardware and less so the software. Does that make sense? They're like, oh yeah, we have the game on the disc for you, essentially. But if your console breaks in 10, 20 years, and let's say Xbox or PlayStation don't exist, you won't be able to access that. I think Xbox, they're trying to find ways for you to do that through PC, which is why I don't know why you guys hate that Microsoft is trying to expand on that, because that's only going to help the Xbox gamer in case that does ever happen. But PlayStation, y'all going to be stuck and restricted to one console. See, that's why the whole restriction of consoles is not good. And you sitting there talking about cheap out. First off, it says right here, 17 gigabytes. That means they would have had to put a 32 gigabyte cartridge for this game, which would have only cost Square more money to make. Why would they want to? It's only 17 gigabytes. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you're acting like it was 15 and they could have put it on a 16 gigabyte cartridge. Clearly, it's too big for that.
On the Nintendo Switch 2, it's a key card. But let's talk about this today. Nintendo Switch games that are compatible with the Nintendo Switch 2. The list has now been updated. We also have a list of games with the startup issues, playable but with compatibility issues, and games with issues that they're trying to basically rush a fix. Now, in the comments, people are like, okay, I want to take a look at all three lists just because...
Bro, I've already done this. Gamester with another W. Didn't we already have people do this already? Bro, you was real late to the party. I mean, maybe it was all those Xbox is dead videos, but people have already covered this. Like, I'm very surprised, or should I say, shocked, that he would bring up something as old as this. Bro, this is your first time talking about this? As if it's new? We knew this already.
Here's part of this is not all indies. A lot of these are actually games that make...
A lot of those are indie games. A lot of them. Really? Felix the Cat, Fig, Flandy, Die Dash. Like, what are you talking about? A lot of these are indie game. Boot Hill Heroes, Baseball Club, Astro Flux, Chronicles of Two Heroes, whatever that is, Amateur's Wrath. What Crazy Strike Bowling EX.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. These are games that just don't work.
Yeah, and I like how you only highlighted one of them. He knows he's full of crap.
Dead by Daylight, Final Fantasy.
That Final Fantasy NES title. Very small game. House Builder. These are indies, bro. What are you talking about?
Grid. I mean, Game Beast, Jurassic Park. I mean, I can't help but just scroll through because so many of these not working. I think this shows the fact that clearly something on the code end is just not working. Now, typically with backwards compatibility, I still can't believe YouTube doesn't work. Warframe doesn't work. Oh my God. Typically with the backwards compatibility, the way it works is there's an emulator on the system. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch 2 architecture is very different from Nintendo Switch 1 architecture. The code, the bits, the hardware inside of it are very, very different. But
no, it's not. What are you talking about? If it's so much different, that's why you know what? You guys like GameStar. I don't know how you deal how you deal with this, bro. Like hold on. What's different about it? It's so different that I could take Switch 1 cartridges to my Switch. You know what? Just go ahead, bro.
Since the Nintendo Switch 2 is a lot stronger than the Nintendo Switch 1, it's essentially got just a little puddle of programming, so you can still drop.
What are you if it's more stronger, then it should have no problem running Twicky Towers in Twip World. This look like King Thrash's Shovelware Platinum list. It should have no problem running the Journey Down Trilogy. You know, like what else? Super Neptunio RPG. Strenio the Stella Machini EX. It should have no problem running any of these games, bro. 12 us. Save the universe. Bro.
In Nintendo Switch 1 games, and they mostly work. But I have to admit that the fact that
RK Archive,
these games seemingly don't even start up, games with startup issues, meaning that a lot of times they won't even boot, even games that actually have stuff, Nintendo Switch games that start up on Nintendo Switch 2, but include some in-game compatibility issues. Now, as a person who played the Xbox 360 launch, there was actually a lot of backwards compatibility issues with Xbox 360 playing original Xbox games, where there were like 20 games that actually ran better on the original Xbox over the 360.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's bound to happen. I've actually experienced this on my PS5 to where some games actually run worse from PS4. I've even showed my live stream this, and it actually ran worse on PS5 than it did on PS4, even though the PS5 is way more powerful. You know the only console, y'all ready for this, that doesn't have this sort of issue? They're like, oh, snap, Gamester. Which one? Ding, 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 ding. Good answer, Carl. The Xbox. I haven't had this problem with Xbox. If anything, the games actually start running better. Y'all like, oh, snap, Gamester. You're right. Games from the Xbox One all run better on the series. Games from the 360 all run better on the series. Games on the original Xbox all run at 4K with enhancements. For free! F-R-E-E-E-E, because we get it for free. Like, bruh, like, what are you talking about? We was getting free upgrades that are far better than what you're getting on PlayStation and Nintendo, but yet y'all hated Microsoft. Like, y'all, you know what? Go ahead, man.
60, just because of how it emulated stuff. But so many of these games, it blows my mind. Alan Wake, Alien, Isolation, oh my god. Fall Guys, oh my god. It's actually just mind-blowing. The Mega Man collection doesn't work.
The Mega Man collection don't work. The Mega Mans?
What are we doing here? Saints Row? I'm not just meaning to read these games
Street Fighter
back to back, but I hate seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games labeled as this issue is being investigated. This issue is being investigated. This issue is being investigated. To me, how are you dealing with this at launch? Maybe I'm being
They're not worried about it because more than likely people that have these games are not even going to play them anyway. I hate to say it, like I said, from a collector standpoint, from a guy that has physical media, obviously I have a problem with this. But if you own your games digitally, some games will work, some games don't. Like for example, I got Manhunt on my PS4 and it works better on there. But when I got it on PS5, y'all have seen it, I had a whole stream of it. It ran like crap. Okay, let me go trade my PS5 in because one game on the PS4 that don't work that well. It's a PS2 game, but still, that runs on the PS5 runs worse.
Critical here. Maybe somebody in the comments will say you're being too harsh, but how is this stuff still being investigated 9 days before launch? A lot of the leaks are that the Nintendo Switch 2's like rough schematics were done in 20...
And honestly, that's still not a lot of games because I thought it was actually going to be worse. So seeing this list actually makes it more confident to know that the Switch has a better backwards compatibility than what we originally thought. Y'all have games, so what you mean? It's the same list of games that's saying the issue needs to be investigated. That's actually worse. No, it's not. Because if it was worse, we would be... You know what? I'm going to explain it, and y'all like... You're going to be like, Gamester with another W. Because if it was worse, then that means more games would have popped up. This is the same games they've been showing for the same 3 or 4 months. Okay, I'm not saying like Nintendo's being forthcoming. We don't know until it comes out and launches. All I'm saying, going based off this list of games that y'all showing, no other new games have been added. So besides these games that don't work, apparently all the other ones do. You're like, oh, snap, Gamester, you're right. Because if the situation was getting worse, then that means there would be more games to see and look at. You know what? Y'all don't know how I be dealing with these dummies.
2021. They've been working on this console for like 4 years. It's out now, and it's still this...
It's out? The Switch 2 is out? The Switch.
Busted this incomplete. Oh wait, we have a third list. Games they're trying to rush a patch for. This to me is unforgivable. Doom Eternal, Fortnite,
That's actually good. So this shows progress. This shows that the games. Oh, hold on. You're a lying. You are lying, bro. Look at that. You are a big liar, right? And I'm gonna explain why he's a liar. Because you said Fortnite didn't work on it, and the reason why Fortnite doesn't work on the Switch 2 because it says right there a Nintendo Switch 2 version is planned, which means that of course the Fortnite one on the Switch 1 wouldn't work on the 2. Why would you want to play that version anyway on the Switch 2? But you made it appear as if Fortnite didn't work on the Switch 2 at all. It says it right here, guys. Look at his video and look at it. It says Nintendo Switch 2 version is planned. Or no, it says, yeah. Which means they're probably going to put one out. All these planned to be resolved are probably more likely going to get fixed. Which also means that the games that didn't work initially, how now are on this list, are potentially going to be fixed for the Switch 2. So this is still far better than what we had before when we found out all these games, which remember, didn't work on. Y'all like, oh, I see what you're saying, games. So that means that we have more games working initially now than once we had before.
Kids Fitness, boxing. How are Nintendo games?
And that's a Nintendo game. Right there. It says it right here. That is a Nintendo game. That probably has more to do with the Joy-Cons or some new technology to put with that. That does make sense, though.
Games not working on the Nintendo. Oh, my God. I have to say, Pizza Tower, oh, my God.
He acted like Pizza Tower, really? This man acting like he played that. Oh, he's like, y'all want to look into this game, Pizza Tower? Because the way he said that, Pizza Tower, no! Pizza Tower! That's my favorite game, Pizza Tower. Because you know it doesn't work on my Switch 2. Now I'm feeling hurt. Pizza Tower was one of my favorite games. I like a pepperoni and put a little bacon.
This to me,
Pizza Tower.
That the Nintendo Switch 2 is not ready for launch. And I feel like this is such a...
Where my Italy supporters at?
Strange time to rush it. Like, historically, Nintendo's
Look at that. All they did was make the box smaller. Look at that. They made your box. They cutting down on the materials. They're like, yo, we got to cut down on the cardboard. Look at that. That don't make no sense how the Switch 2 box smaller than the Switch 1. They're like, yo, that Nintendo really cheaping out now.
Your console. Nintendo has admitted that their new end-user license agreement, if they even think you're trying to bootleg something or share games with a friend, they will break your console. There is going to be videos of people legitimately playing their system and it gets bricked. There's going to be videos of people trying to play games and they crash. There's going to be videos of people trying to transfer cloud saves with thousands of hours of Platoon on it, and they're going to get deleted.
We've already seen that. We've already seen that with Switch 1. So whatever you're saying is nothing new.
I am fascinated because this really does seem like a unique L. The Nintendo Switch.
What L? You know what's a unique L? Games like Marathon, where nobody wants to buy. You want to know another unique L? Is how you got 19 live service subscription games, and the vast majority of them been canceled. You want to know another unique L? That the best games on PS5 are the same games you can play on Xbox with more of a better value and quick resume, which you guys don't have, and Game Pass. You want to know what another unique L is for PlayStation? What do you talk unique L? As far as I'm concerned, Nintendo got far more games than you, and that is what's important.
Which won me over because it stayed in its lane. It wasn't trying to have the best graphics. It wasn't trying to have big open world experiences.
And it still doesn't have the best graphics. So what point are you proving?
Tablets that played amazing games.
Listen. What do you think the Switch 2 is doing? It's the same exact philosophy with a little bit more technology. And it plays great games. Nothing's really have changed, man. What are you talking about? Oh, they should have stayed in their lane. What?
It stayed in its lane. It wasn't trying to have the best graphics. It wasn't trying to have big open world
and it still doesn't. And it still doesn't.
Experiences. It was a tablet that played.
And this is still very much a tablet. I mean, if you can't see by the background image, they still very much look the same.
Amazing games.
And they're gonna have amazing games. Mario Kart World, Metroid Prime 4, Enhanced 4K, whatever 120. They got the games. Pokemon, they got the new Hyrule Wars coming. They definitely got the Donkey Kong Bonanza. They definitely got the games that people want to play. Okay? Even I would have bought on one, a bid on one, but I decided not to. I'll wait for the aftermarket. I'll see how my friend gets. He probably gets out of it, and I'll buy it off from him. Okay? I'm not in a rush to get this thing. All I'm saying that I would rather have a Switch 2 than a PS5. I'll tell you that much.
And I really enjoyed that. I liked seeing, even if they were downgraded ports, it was cool seeing Wolfenstein on it and The Witcher on it. And
What are you talking about? The games are going to look far... You know... Oh my goodness, bro. Wolfenstein ain't even on the cartridge. How about you bring that up? Wolfenstein 2 New Colossus is not on the cartridge. Matter of fact, it looks worse. Second of all, the games that won't be on the cart, which we already know is a game keycard, are going to run way better because they're not going to have to be compressed to a cartridge to be able to fit the game and get it on to work. Switch 2 is going to by far have way better ports than what the Switch 1 ever had before. Okay? What are you talking about? If anything, the Switch 2 is doing far better in every regard than what the Switch 1 did. And better.
And Final Fantasy on it. And seeing basically how great the Nintendo Switch could be at just being a Nintendo console. Whereas the Switch 2, this really seems like a project that purely exists so they could monetize the fan base. This, to me, if I could just be brutally honest, it seems like a pathetic cash grab. And
You gotta be serious.
Very un-Nintendo-like. Nintendo typically made money because they had the best product. The cutest games, the most family, friendly, focused.
And they still do. The only thing people are complaining is about the anti-consumer practices with raising the price and all that. Because, like I said, the PS5 Pro sucks even if you price it at $500. But the only thing that sucks about this is the price tag. Nobody's bashing the Switch 2 because of all the others. So they're bashing it because of the game key cards, and they're bashing it because of the price of the games in the console. That is it. But if it was priced at $300, nobody would be hating this console.
But now they really do seem like they don't care about anything except milking you. How do you feel about the Nintendo Switch 2? How do you feel about this backwards compatibility list?
Well, we're done, bro. Like I said, man, it's people like you, man, that really put a bad name for people that are actually really critical about this system. And like I've said before, man, at the end of the day, the Nintendo Switch 2 is still going to do far better than PlayStation 5. You're acting as if this is a Wii U situation, bro. Like, what are you doing, man? I get it. Everybody want to jump on this whole Nintendo Switch 2 bandwagon hate. But like I said, I have my personal opinions on it. And like I said, if I would rather have a Switch 2 than a PS5 because unlike the PS5, the Switch 2 actually has the most important thing that is important to fanboys. And you're like, what is that, guys? Exclusives. So, yeah, remember that whole we have exclusives argument? Well, guess what? The Switch 2 does. And what's even more laughable, they got Switch 2 exclusives. And guess what? Say whatever you want about the third party using game key cards. They on the cartridge. So until we see that they're not, you ponies can't say anything else. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And like I said, man, take care. Matter of fact, let me hit you guys with one more thing real quick. Hold on.
About news. Until next time, this is Three Dog. Ow! And you're listening to Galaxy News Radio, bringing you the truth, no matter how